And breaking tonight, the most powerful Democrat in the Senate doubling down on calling a Nevada rancher and his supporters domestic terrorists, as a Republican senator demands that someone be held accountable for ordering federal agents to provoke an armed standoff. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. Right now, rancher Cliven Bundy is holding a rally with hundreds of supporters there. But the showdown between Bundy and the feds is not over. Tonight, Nevada Senators Democrat Harry Reid and Republican Dean Heller getting into it on TV, local TV. Senator Reid doubling down on his allegations that those supporting Mr. Bundy are, in his view, domestic terrorists.
Senator Reid, yesterday you called Mr. Bundy and his supporters domestic terrorists. I thought we were trying to calm the situation down, so what did you mean by that?
Just what I said.
Why? So talk to me a little bit more about that, Senator, in the sense of what triggered the pullout? I mean, what you're obviously privy to intelligence. What was it that they were doing up there that would make you call them domestic terrorists?
The National Cattlemen's Association has a wonderful branch here in Nevada. I met with them last week. They pay their taxes, they pay their fees, they follow the law. Bundy doesn't believe that the American government is valid. He believes the United States is a foreign government. He doesn't pay his taxes. He doesn't follow the law. He doesn't pay his fees. And if anyone thinks by any figment of their imagination what happened up there last week was just people rallying to somebody that was oppressed, 600 people came in, armed. They had practiced, they had maneuvered, they knew what they were doing. They set up snipers in strategic locations with sniper rifles. They had assault weapons. They had automatic weapons. And they boasted about the fact that they put women and children. In fact, one retired sheriff from Arizona boasted that he put women and children so that they would get hit first. So 600 people. If there were ever an example of people who were domestic violent terrorist wannabes, these are the guys. And I think that we should call it that way. We have a situation where I think that it's really untoward. Would it be appropriate if Jim Rogers, owner of this station, got behind in his taxes or had a problem with the Federal Communications Commission to station around here when people tried to collect taxes or to do something that was in keeping with the law and surround this place with armed people? Of course not. And remember, not only did Bundy do what I've just said, there are two valid court orders, a permanent injunction, get the cattle off the land, pay your fees.
Senator Heller, is the Bundy family, are his supporters, are they domestic terrorists?
No, I have a very different view.
But no one called Bundy's a domestic terrorist. I said the people that came there were.
Okay.
Yeah. What Senator Reid may call domestic terrorists, I call patriots. We have a very different view on
and I
this.
said, these people think they're patriots, they're not. I use that word typically. If they're patriots, we're in big trouble.
Well, it's a pretty broad brush when you have Boy Scouts there, you have veterans at the event, you have grandparents at the event, and these are people that, as long as they're not promoting violence, in my opinion,
promoting violence, sniper rifles. Talk to Sheriff Gillespie. Automatic weapons. That's grandmothers. That's Boy Scouts. I hope not, because we got more problems with Boy Scouts than whether they can have gay leaders. If that's the case.
I take more issues with BLM coming in with a paramilitary army of people, with individuals with snipers, and I'm talking to people in groups that were there at the event, and to have your own government with sniper lenses on you, it made a lot of people very uncomfortable.
Right, as Senator Reid stokes the fire, Senator Heller is looking now for accountability from the feds.
I would like to have hearings. I want to find out who's accountable for this. I hope someone in the BLM feels some accountability on exactly what happened, and I fear that there will be no answer to that question. But I want hearings in Washington, D.C. on exactly what happened and who gave the orders in order to march in like this.
Dana Lash is host of Dana on the Blaze TV. Dana, good to see you. And so Senator Reid did not agree to hearings looking into the Fed's conduct in this matter. He's very focused on the so-called domestic terrorists. He made the remark yesterday. There was a lot of blowback, a lot of criticism about using that kind of term to describe Americans who were trying to stand up on principle. I've made clear my own personal view as a lawyer on where they stand on the law. And yet today he doubles down on it and doesn't seem to want any accountability for both sides.
Megyn, it absolutely amazes me, and I think Senator Harry Reid forgets that he is not on the Senate floor when he's making these remarks, so he is not allowed to engage in slander, which he's protected when he's on the Senate floor to do. There are so many things wrong with what he said in that audio. I don't even know where to begin. It's first off, calling these individuals domestic terrorists. I spoke with Cliven Bundy, and he repeatedly called for peace. He told people, don't wear camouflage, leave your firearms at home. These individuals didn't come out with fully automatic weapons. If he wants to use that as a definition for who carried what, look at the BLM. These were grandmothers. There were kids here. There were ranch hands. Here's the contrast in optics, Megyn. You had 200 agents. You had helicopters that showed up. You contrast that with a number of cowboys on horseback, unarmed, with the American flag waving in the wind as they bowed their head and said a prayer before they met and rounded up these cattle and took them back out to pasture. For Harry Reid to do this, it's reckless. He's trying to incite something. I get the impression, Megyn, that he is unhappy with the peaceful resolution and outcome that took place last weekend. And so I have to question why, in this era of new tone, he's using this, what I call violent rhetoric.
Well, it's very interesting. You raise a good point, because he was so silent while the whole thing was going on, and only now that it's over is he, as I say, stoking the fires. Why would, as his son yesterday called for things to de-escalate, the father, Harry Reid, is out there saying domestic terrorists, domestic terrorists. By the way, these are live pictures on the left of the Bundy Ranch tonight, where they're holding this rally tonight. But speak, Dana, if you could, to his point, because he raises an issue that does cut against the behavior of the protesters, which is their plan, according to a sheriff who was there, and as was the sheriff admitted on Fox News, to put women and children on the front lines of this showdown, because he said if the feds are going to shoot, they're going to shoot the women first, and that will make the feds look bad. That, I mean, in Harry Reid's defense,
right,
that's what has him upset in part about the tactics used.
And it was one remark made, which was an idiotic remark, and shame on that guy for saying it, because it did a disservice to everyone who was standing out there. And now they gave ground to Senator Reid to sit here and slander the rest of the Bundy family, when Cliven Bundy specifically called for peace. But here's the other thing, Megyn. Where was Harry Reid when you had occupiers plotting to blow up a bridge in Cleveland over Cuyahoga Valley? I went out there and I was talking to individuals out there in Cleveland, and there was no, Democrats were still calling, Harry Reid was still calling the Occupy movement a wonderful thing. You had individuals that stormed a port in I think one was in Oakland, another was in Sacramento. In Oakland, they were doing property damage. If you want to have a discussion on domestic terrorism, there were no shots fired in Nevada. They repeatedly called for peace, and it is a shame that you have a sitting senator who is slandering people and trying to amp up violence.
Right. Well, when it's been averted, when it's been successfully averted.
Right. Yeah.
Dana, it's good to see you. Happy Easter.
Thanks, Megyn. Happy Easter.
So what about that? Why is Harry Reid doing this now that it's basically over? Joining me now for more on the politics of this, Mark Thiessen, a former speechwriter for President George W. Bush and a fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Mark, good to see you. Why?
Good to see you,
He said nothing as the thing was going on. It finally ends. People are happy that it ended without any violence. And now he comes out and uses terms like that?
It's outrageous. And I mean, if you think about it, Timothy McVeigh was a domestic terrorist. The Unabomber was a domestic terrorist. The Bundys are not domestic terrorists. It's appalling to call them this name. But so why would Harry Reid do something like that? Why would he associate them with Timothy McVeigh and the Unabomber and people like that? And I think there's a couple of reasons. One, he's defending the Obama administration. If the people if the Bundys and their supporters are domestic terrorists, then it's not excessive to send 200 paramilitary army of 200 200 forces to shut them down. So that gives them a defense. Second, he's defending his staffer, Neil Cornsey, who's the new head of the BLM. When Dean Heller says he wants to investigate who made the decision at the BLM to do this, he's talking about investigating Neil Cornsey. This is a 35-year-old kid who was just confirmed. Many people said that he was too young and not qualified for the job, and Harry Reid went out and defended him. And then within the first few weeks on the job, he orders this paramilitary raid on the Bundys. So if these guys are domestic terrorists, then that's not excessive. He didn't do anything wrong.
That's
so I think he's trying to defend the administration and his staffer.
And it comes out in the wake of him, of us seeing video of, the feds using dogs, using tasers, on, folks who were standing out there creating a First Amendment zone in the middle of the range. Literally, instead of rounding up cattle, they rounded up people and told them they had to stand behind a rope that the feds had designated if they wanted to express their outrage, which isn't exactly how we do it here in the United States of America. So they're on the defensive.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, I thought America was a First Amendment zone, but I guess we're wrong about that. There's so much that's wrong about how the BLM handled this and the Obama administration handled it. And so this is all now coming under scrutiny. So what he's trying to do is, one, defend them, but two, discredit all the people who are criticizing them. Because the people who are criticizing it are the extremists. If these guys are domestic terrorists, then everybody who's saying this action is excessive, we're the extremists who are associating ourselves with domestic terrorists. And that's what he's trying to do.
He called Tea Partiers anarchists, and the Democratic Party was very effective in hurting the Tea Party and diminishing their credibility by repeating that charge and the racist charge and so on. And one wonders whether something similar is now happening here. We're going to talk more about it in just a bit. Mark, thank you.
Thanks, Megyn.
Happy Easter. Just ahead, we're going to go live to the Nevada Ranch, where filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza is joining Cliven Bundy and his supporters. Dinesh, of course, is facing federal charges for campaign contributions, and his case has been held up by some on the right as an example of government trying to intimidate an outspoken critic of this administration. Dinesh sees similarities in this case. We'll talk to him about it, and we'll examine the question of why Harry Reid continuously now is mentioning Cliven Bundy's alleged back taxes that are owed, something that Cliven Bundy says is not the case. Where is Mr. Reid getting that information from? And Ayan Ali may be the one